Well, it's so nice to see so many of you are still here. We must be doing something right at the Global Cybersecurity Forum. This panel, as you've probably seen in your programs, is called Cyber Costs Reframed. The idea is we're used to measuring financial losses, economic losses when it comes to cyber activity, cyber disruption, cyber attacks, cyber crime. Less used and perhaps less skilled at talking about the direct human harm that can come from cyber disruption. So that's what we're going to do just now with my three esteemed panelists who were just introduced, so we won't have to go through that again. Thank you so much for joining us. I like this topic because we can really take it where we want to, but we need to kind of nail some things down before we get into it. So Dan, let me do that with you. Let's start with where the harm can be done. In other words, what cyber-related systems are most vulnerable to malicious cyber activity when it comes to causing us humans?
Thank you so much, Ren, for the question. Most intuitively are the devices, the systems that are the closest to our own person. So
the phone.
Phones and tablets and the laptops and so on. Simply because we saw it in the last years, thanks to the very aggressive digital transformation, we install plenty of applications, plenty of tools. We have plenty of data, so on devices that are really, literally on our person. And they are the ones that influence and impact our daily life, our relations, our communication, our work, actually. So everything that impacts a device that I'm using on a daily basis, definitely it harms me in a variety of ways. Whether I lose productivity, or I lose money, or I lose time, or I get impacted in a negative manner in the way I do my work and my activity.
Thank you very much. Dr. Ahmed Abdul Hafiz, I'm trying to figure out, Your Excellency, if Dan's point just now was kind of obvious and simple as a result of being obvious, or actually a bit profound. So if you could weigh in on that. And also, let's zoom out. Okay, phone, I think we all understand that our phone and losing control of the data on our phone can cause us trouble. If we zoom out, what kind of macro problems can we run into?
Yeah, I would like first to thank Saudi Arabia for inviting me for this great event. Thank you very much for the hospitality and for the great event. First of all, let us talk about, if you are talking about any digital transformation or any kind of to help the prosperity of the human being or to well-being for the human. So any cyber attack will harm the human being, even is direct or indirect. So coming up with my friend Dan saying about the phones, there is a psychological disease right now called nomophobia, no mobile phone phobia.
Yes.
So the fear of losing your mobile phone. Since whole life on your phone, a bank account, your credential, your social engineering, your WhatsApp, everything is on your phone. So if you lost your phone, even if you lost the battery of your phone, you are feeling you are always checking the life of your phone if it's gonna lose the battery or not. So there is a lot of activities if cyber attack will harm, this will have a direct impact on the human being, which is indirect or indirect, like healthcare property, like ITS, Intelligent Transportation System, which will be intelligent transformation, emergency service systems, which will be digitized. All this service will be digitized. So will be affected with cyber attack, will have an impact or direct or indirect in the human being and the well-being of the human. So every cyber attack, whatever it has a direct impact on the human or not a direct impact, will have a bad impact on the human being, about his well-being, about his life. Even in the societal environment itself, for the cyberbullying and the social engineering, using abusing of the small girls or something like that. All these activities will be harming the human activities. You know.
Thank you very much. And that term again was no phone?
No mobile phone phobia. Nomophobia. It's called
Yeah.
the nomophobia, no mobile phone phobia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
it's a
there might be
disease,
some people
you
in the
know,
audience
it's-
suffering
this is
from
a
that right now.
For the psychologists, it's known 8 years ago. It's not a new disease here.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Engineer Borky, we also just heard about healthcare. So is healthcare a big concern when it comes to human harm?
First of all, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for Saudi Arabia for having us here, and I have to greet Saudi Arabia for having the World Cup hosting for the next few years. Second of all, for answering your question, as you said, it's a wide answer question. Healthcare has become the last few years one of the highest assets for ransomware attacks, as well as financial sectors.
Healthcare's close to financial.
Let's say healthcare was the first, statistically, for the first high asset was targeted by ransomware attackers. And because it makes money, and money is everything, and because they crypt data for patients, which cause disruption for executing surgeries around hospitals. That's why it becomes a high target. Now, statistically, also financial sectors has become one of the highest assets. Money has been always is the highest asset for everything. And if we want to go also wider with that, any high asset information which lays in a system, it becomes a high asset. For example, smartphone. Your smartphone, if it doesn't have any sensitive information or bank information, it won't be a harm if you've been attacked.
Sure.
But what lays inside actually the system, whether it's a smart system or IoT, Internet of Things system, which is attached to the big wide network, it becomes a high asset. Various and as emerging technology becoming very fast evolving and very fast changing, also the high asset for attacks become changing by the time and by how important actually this smart or system is important. So, for example, also, as Dr. Hafez said, military system has been always a high asset, healthcare system, and I can add on also oil sectors has become also one of the highest assets.
Yeah.
So you cannot just define whether this is a high asset this year or next year. So it becomes a high asset when it becomes a target. So you will not be targeted unless you are an important entity or a system or a high target for as a governmental, let's say, target.
Thank you. Dan, can you give us an example of an attack on a healthcare system or a part of a healthcare system that caused direct human harm?
Absolutely. As we all may know, about 3 years ago in September 2020, it was the first, I think it was the first ever documented, unfortunate human death due to a ransomware attack. It happened in Germany, in Düsseldorf, where due to a ransomware attack on a hospital, actually one patient was impossible to be treated by the doctors and had to be moved from one hospital to another. And actually, the root cause of the death of that patient, unfortunately, was assessed, was ruled out as being that particular ransomware attack. And let's just imagine that one hospital that is treating 1,000 patients every single day due to a cyber attack is not able to handle 1,000 patients a day, but I don't know, 100 or 200. So the risk it's gigantic, and honestly, no manager of the hospital, no authority can afford such risk. And we as regular users, we should be aware that any disruption in this sector can produce a tragic impact on our lives.
And how well are we prepared to deal with those kind of attacks right now?
I'm choosing carefully my words now. Unfortunately, I think there are plenty of challenges and risks over there. The healthcare sector systematically in many, many countries is not the most mature one from a cybersecurity perspective. And it's simply because there is a proliferation of very specialized technologies for healthcare. It's also a proliferation of digital technologies that support the infrastructure of hospitals. And thanks to this, it's very difficult and very complex to have a very, let's say, good security baseline for the sector as a whole. It's also one of the sectors that needs very, very high investment because lives could be impacted because patients are at risk in case something goes wrong. And I truly believe that is one of the sectors that should be systematically on the top of the agenda of the national cybersecurity competent authorities in terms of focus and investment.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the so-called attack surface, where these attacks can happen. Your Excellency, Dr. Hafiz, if you could talk a little bit about, how one measures the impact of these things, if it's not financial, if there isn't how do you, because governments are good at dealing with problems that they can measure, and money is easy to measure, but what about like what we've just been talking about?
Yeah, are you talking about the role of the government to withstand the cybercrime will impact as a human being? I'm always saying awareness is a very important issue. The government, all the government will take care about it to raise the awareness of the human being, how to deal with the digital transformation in a safe manner. So all governments all over the world are moving right now for the digital transformation to make the life of the people very easy or something like that. But in the other way, you should learn with them how to deal with digital transformation in a safe manner by awareness, by regulations, by laws. So if the people know how to deal with the digital transformation, with the digital life, for all life, even if financially, or the health care or transportation and every service in a safe manner, will reduce cyber attack with at least from 80 to 90%. For that to protect themselves from to be attacked even personally, or if this person is an employee of any organization, of any government, if he's going to be attacked officially, his official credential, for example, his official email, if this has been attacked, the whole organization will be attacked. The mail server of the whole organization will be attacked. So awareness is the most important thing to help the people to deal with the digital transformation in a safe manner. Second one, to put a very strict regulations and rules to be followed by the people and the officials in the government. So if we are talking about the human being, a normal human being like children, like the women, like the elderly or the disabilities, you have to learn with them how to deal with the digital transformation. For example, in Egypt, we are a big country, of about 40% of the population under 18, which is by law considered as children. So right now we are making child online protection strategy to help the children to get benefit from using the internet, but in a safe manner. So using regulation to help the people to know their rights. The other thing is the law. We have many laws in Egypt right now for anti-criminal, anti-cyber criminal laws, for the data privacy law. So if we are issuing this law, but the people didn't know about this law, they didn't know that this activity may be criminalized, or they didn't know how to get that rights if had been attacked by something else. So as I said, as the most critical three activities in any nation should do to withstand these cyber attacks, which will be harm directly for the human beings, the awareness, regulation, and the laws.
Thank you very much. Engineer Borki, we heard there from His Excellency about how so much of the population in Egypt is under the age of 18. You can't talk about young people and without talking about privacy, young people sharing, for example, images of themselves amongst themselves. It's quite common now, and then those can get in the wrong hands. How big of a problem is that? And how do you deal with it?
If I want to elaborate on my colleagues' feedbacks, it's a great impact. It's a scary impact. One of the challenges now, it's not about having technical and regulation publications. It could be about budgetary. people or country doesn't have enough budget or the right budget actually to execute publication and regulation for sizing and measuring cyber impacts. And you know, if you can measure it, you can't manage it. So the great impacts about any country individually or collectively. So it has to be a collective approach and a collective collaboration. And I believe, I suggest, I mean, since we have now a global medical organization for any coming up pandemics, which they can help poor countries for not having medical. Now there is poor countries which they have poor infrastructure and they don't have the capabilities actually for protecting their cyberspace. So why not having now a global effort which helps other countries to protect? Because this is a vice versa. For example, now if I am a country A which have a good high capabilities in cyber, and a next neighbor country has a weakness in cyber, it could be a threat for me. So now helping the whole surrounding countries which having a great, let's say, plan or executive plan for cyber is a must. And the impact it's devastating, and it could be costing millions of dollars by not having the right strategy or clear objectives and the clear pillars, as my colleague says, awareness, training, and building capabilities in cyber.
And just because you mentioned the word budget there for a moment, we heard during the plenary session the former president of Estonia talking about how she's concerned about the spiraling costs of dealing from a governmental perspective. Not exactly our topic here, but you both are all coming from governments dealing with this issue. She mentioned that the budget of Estonia for combating cybercrime has grown fivefold over the last 5 years. Of course, Estonia has a neighbor that's part of the reason why that budget has been going up. But how do you, is that an issue that, you know, attracting the necessary resources to deal with cybercrime in your country and in general for countries right now?
It is an issue. I mean, if you don't believe that cyber could be devastating, and now it's the fourth domain in the world, we have physical domains, for example, land, sea, and maritime domains. Now we have a cyberspace domain.
Yeah.
And it's nothing less than those three physical domains and borders. So now, if you believe now that cyber could take you to a nightmare for any countries, now you will set up the right budgetary. But things, now I'm speaking about many challenges now. It's some countries, and they don't believe now cyber is a threat. Unless
You want to name names?
until they have been hit.
You want to name the countries right now?
Many countries. So I mean, if you believe that cyber could be power and cyber could be a threat,
Yeah.
it's the way how can you deal with it. And if I want to quote from His Excellency Adel Al-Jubair, he mentioned a very important quote that now any country pillars, now the top three, I think cyber could be the top three, or it is the top three priorities for any countries. It could hit your economy, it could hit your society, and it could hit your financial system. So this is something you need to be, we need to actually invest on, and we need to take it in consideration.
Thank you. Dan, if I could bring it back, when we think about the attack surface, and we're going to move on from this and talk about collaboration in a moment, the issue of privacy and protecting your privacy, which we just started to kind of move into, particularly amongst young people. How big of a problem is it, and how do you deal with that?
I think it's a big challenge, honestly. And one of the root causes of being such a big challenge is that, especially the young generation, it's by far better and more proficient than we were in using technologies. And something that we tend to forget is that they get their knowledge and their good practices from each other in the very first place. They tend to not look too seriously at regulatory landscape. Kids and young people they don't really read cybersecurity related laws, and they get good practices in the way they find it more appealing and receiving it from each other. So we have to address actually this challenge, and also not to forget that simply because they are more experienced in using digital technologies than older generations, we have a shift in the paradigm. So now kids and youngsters are teaching their parents and grandparents on how to behave safely, how to protect privacy, how to protect their data on the internet. So it's something that we should look very, very careful at, and honestly invest a bit more in the knowledge of this young generation to get them to help all of us to get more resilient and more secure in cyberspace.
Your Excellency, how does, we were talking about this over the last day and a half, our favorite emerging technology, AI, how does that complicate threats when it comes to human harm?
Well, as a cybersecurity guys got benefit from using AI, the attacker as well got benefit from using AI to invent a new attack, a zero-day attack, which will be sophisticated, will be very complicated to deal with. So AI, it has both sides. It's a good and a bad one. For the good one, the cybersecurity guys, we're using, for example, if you have a very big data or a very big incident we need to analyze, using AI will help us to accelerate that process. But on the other side, as I said, even if you don't a cybersecurity expert, if you're just a human, a normal one, knowing a little bit about AI, using as a very well-known, that like ChatGPT right now, you ask them to make a new attack, he's gonna do that for you. So AI, it's uncontrollable technology until now, since all the government right now, all the United Nations right now, are looking for how to control or to manage using ethically AI in an ethical manner. Even in the educational service, any student right now can write his report using AI. So AI help the attacker very well to invent a new attacks, a sophisticated one. So as a security guys, we are suffering right now from a zero-day attack. Zero-day attack, it means that an attack with no fingerprint, for example, So using a new one, so we need to deal with the new attacks every second. Every day right now, there's a new attack using AI. So the span of the attacker has been increased using AI. As I said, you don't have to be an expert for the cybersecurity to be an attacker. But since it gives a lot of money, so a lot of people right now using AI gonna be attacker. So it will be sophisticated. It will be harder for us to withstand this activity using AI.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Engineer Borky, they just had an AI summit in London. I heard the word 50 times in the last several sentences. How do you regulate, moving to the solution end of this conversation, how do you regulate AI so that you don't have these kind of problems?
I think I'll rephrase the question. Can we actually regulate AI? This is the main question.
Yeah.
I don't think it's something constant. AI is fast changing also, and it could be also a powerful protection, and it could be a weakness and a threat. It depends the way you use it. So regulating AI is not something I believe, it's not an easy job. It should be constantly changing your publication and policies to keep up with fast changing technology. AI has been approved both ways, have been approved positive approaches and have been approved negative approaches. AI has been one of the ways of attacking system by the attackers. Also, as well as it has become a good solution in medical sector, for example, for helping surgeries and around the world by using the 5G connectivities. So AI, it's a big topic. AI, it's a deep thought. AI, it's not something we can, I believe, it's not an easy job to regulate.
Yeah. Okay. That's a bit worrisome.
This is my thought.
Thank you. Dan, okay, so if we can't, you know, I mean, because we were listening to Jose Barroso, the former president of the European Commission, the other day talk about how it took the European Union 9 years to come up with GDPR. That was a good thing because they got scale, and we all use it now. It's sort of like the global standard, but AI, I don't know, maybe it's another beast, and we probably don't have 9 years. So what should a nation do to control this problem of cyber crimes causing harm to people?
I think, obviously, in the very first place, we should have very good regulatory measures, which is something extremely difficult to put in place. For a very simple reason, technology will be always one step ahead of regulatory environment. So first, technology will come, cybercrime, for example, will use and exploit vulnerabilities of those technologies and will do harm. And then national competent authorities at the level of one country or group of states, they will have to come with some measures. That's one big challenge, and it's not very easy to align those measures, because if one country is very resilient, very strong in terms of regulatory measures, and others are less mature, basically we don't fix the issue. Then we have to really invest a lot in educating the user. And just to give a simple example, we have to protect millions of users, honestly, either directly in the way they act and they behave on the internet, in cyberspace, or indirectly through the critical infrastructures that need to be resilient, available, and so on. So we have to really work on those dimensions, regulatory measures on one hand, and this is not easy to put in place, especially when it comes to, for example, the ransomware phenomenon, the always debatable issue of, do we want to ban payment for ransom or not? How should we tackle this? And no one has a magic solution up to this moment, up to the moment of how to increase education and resilience of regular users, that if we put them together, they become a gigantic attack surface that can be exploited by malicious actors. So what I truly believe is that we have a very serious challenge ahead of us, and we have to focus really systematically on this.
Well, let me pick up on the ransomware idea real quickly with you for a second, because just, I guess, last week, 40 countries came together to agree that they would not pay ransomware on attacks. Now, my assumption was that they were talking about on a national level. So if the United States gets attacked and someone, you know, tries to extract a ransom from the U.S., I don't know if the U.S. was a signatory to that agreement, then the U.S. wouldn't pay it, just like the other countries, and so they're coming together to try and, but can you, you just mentioned basically banning people from paying ransom. So for example, if someone sends you an email and they say, Ryan, we have some really sensitive information about you and we're going to share it with the world, you're saying that you would ban me from paying those people to get my information back?
The difficult challenge is how to cascade down decision that is taken at the national level. For example, my country doesn't pay ransomware.
Yeah, that I kind of get.
To cascade it down to private actors, to industry organizations, and ideally cascade it down to the level of users. But how to create this mechanism, how to enforce it, that's very complicated, because at the end of the day, users are autonomous, they behave in their own way, and it's extremely difficult to enforce it, actually. My personal opinion is that we should attempt to ban ransomware payment across the board, simply because by paying a ransom, actually we encourage the phenomenon. We finance the cybercrime, actually.
I want to come over to Your Excellency in a moment, but real quickly, Engineer Borky, I saw you shaking your head. Should countries ban their citizens from paying ransomware?
I don't think there is a correct answer here. It depends on how valuable are, for example, the
My
attack.
information is very valuable. My private information.
So you answered actually the question is how valuable actually the attacker has taken in national-wide or individual-wide. So for example, now if someone stole your data and the only data that you have is in your smartphone, and you don't have a backup for it.
Yeah.
Would you negotiate?
If it was cheap to get it back, maybe. Yeah.
If there is a way and you can get
Low
it back and it's
price.
cheaper, of course
Yeah.
you're gonna, because this is your life in your smartphone.
Yeah.
Let's take it to the next level. Now, if this information or whatsoever that the attacker has been taken and encrypt those data, and those data can cause a national threat or disruption of services in this country, do you think we cannot negotiate? So, I mean, it depends. I don't think this is something, it could be a one solution in each country, but each country has the right to deal with it how they see it. And I believe if it's for the national interest, I don't think there is a problem to negotiate.
Your Excellency, Dr. Hafiz, I'm going to give you.
Let me add to something to my brothers. The issue of the nations trying to control the ransomware, the losses for ransomware attacks has been increased in the last year by trillions of US dollars. So we are trying globally to control the ransomware, but as His Excellency said, if any organization didn't follow the controls of making 3T1 backup for their assets, so the data right now it become the most important assets. It's going to be the oil of the world right now. The data will be the oil of the global right now. So if any organization didn't control or make a backup for their data, as a punishment, they should pay the ransomware. They should pay the money to get their data back, you know.
I'm going to give you the last word.
Sure.
Are you satisfied with international collaboration to combat the cybercrime that can lead to human harm or just in general cybercrime? Are you satisfied with the international collaboration we have now? And if you're not, because this is GCF and we're all about having a shared action plan and tangible results, give us one thing nations can do to collaborate better.
If you're asking me, I'm satisfied. No, I am not satisfied about. I'm always prefer a word collaboration rather than cooperation.
Yeah.
In Arabic word, collaboration means ta'adud. Cooperation means ta'awun. You know, ta'adud to be shoulder by shoulder to be with a nation. Yeah. Collaboration between nations will help all of us to overcome the cyber attack with keeping the dignity or the classified data for the nation. So cooperation or collaboration doesn't mean to reveal your classified data between nations, yeah. But we should collaborate even regionally in the Arabic world, the Middle East world, and international. Right now, there are many efforts for the whole nation to collaborate to come up with the anti-criminal law. Regional, it's international law, but it's very difficult. Each region has its mindset about the data protection, data privacy, human rights. You know, there's a very conflict here. But if we didn't collaborate, the attacker will be succeed. You know what? We all over the world, the spending for cybersecurity in $1 billion, but the losses in trillions. So we need to change our philosophy for dealing for cybersecurity. And one most important thing of them is the collaboration. Since cybersecurity is a cross-border activity, you didn't control. You have to collaborate with all government to agree upon certain controls, a certain framework, a certain laws about anti-criminals. You know. So I'm not satisfied. We still have more efforts for collaboration.
Dr. Ahmed Abdel Hafiz, thank you so much. Dan Simpian and Engineer Borky, Your Excellencies, thank you very much for this conversation. We're out of time, but I learned a lot, and I hope you did as well. Please join me in giving a big round of applause for our esteemed panelists. Thank you, guys.